Hi, everybody. I am very happy to be sitting across from Sonya Dove. Sonya needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her an introduction. Sonya is a Wella Global Ambassador. She is an industry icon. She's on the Ulta Pro team, and she's been inspiring and educating our industry for years. And I'm so happy I caught you, though you're kind of caught like we all are in the midst of this pandemic. Where are you? Where are you talking to us from, Sonya?
Yes, I'm actually in Mexico. I'm in a place called San Miguel de Ande. It's central Mexico. It's about 3 hours driving from Mexico City, so it's not near the beach. But I visited this place, like maybe 9 years ago, and I fell in love with this town. There's a lot of culture. It's UNESCO owned. And 9 years ago, I said, I'd love to have a little holiday home there. So I started that quest, and lo and behold, my house got finished Christmas time this year, going into 2020. And I booked out for my birthday, which was May 4th on Monday. I booked out to come here for 2 weeks to get it painted and everything. But by some the virus came into play, and then all of a sudden my full calendar, and when I say full, I'm a workaholic, just disappeared, just like when poof, and disappeared. When my salon work, my education, my video work, everything all just disappeared. And I saw an opportunity to come down to San Miguel, and I thought, I've got no work for 3 weeks. I'm going to jump on a flight down there. I was probably one of the last flights out of Tom Bradley Los Angeles airport, because it was dead as a doornail. And I flew out and I came here, and lo and behold, 2 months later, almost, I'm still here doing my thing and doing what I can, but from Mexico. But I actually reside in Los Angeles, but the plan is to go between the two.
Great. What a beautiful plan. I'm sorry that it was sort of upended and that you're there probably longer than you'd like to be. In preparation for talking to you, I went back and I looked at some of my favorite Sonya Dove stories and some of the interviews I've done with you. And I remembered a time just a couple years ago, we were in Vegas together at Wella Trend Vision Awards, and we were doing a little press junket with interviews, and the lights went out in the hotel where we were staying, and everything went dark. And I was talking to you at the time, and everyone else was scrambling, and you picked up your phone and just started recording that moment. You just jumped into doing a little live broadcast in the dark. And to me, that just so illustrates who you are, Sonya, as an artist, as an inspiring figure, that you take sort of adversity and you find the opportunity in it. And I think during this time, when we are all feeling the adversity and the challenge, how have you been staying lifted? How have you been staying positive?
Well, firstly, just to tag back to that occasion, because I remember it clearly. And when the lights went out, I see everything as an opportunity. I remember when social media started to come really strong, someone turned around to me and I said, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at technology. I don't know how on earth I'm going to do any social media. And they said to me, oh, you don't need to worry about it because it's for younger people. Well, when that person said that, Sonya Dove's head immediately said, game on. Game on. Because when someone tells me it's not for me, that's the way I do it. It's the sort of, that I've always been that sort of rebellious person. So I see it's an immediate thing that I do, is put my phone on and record it, because I used to have my social media based on my hairdressing. It was only hair, nothing to do with my life personally. And then I got so many people ask about, holidays and what I do for this and what I do for that, other than hair, I thought, I'm going to open my soul. I'm going to let me be real and authentic. And from that day forward, I record everything. And some of the things, I mean, everything. When I'm at Burning Man, when I'm at things. But I think there's always opportunity. And this virus time, I'm not going to lie, the first week, I was like, wow, is this what retirement's like? No work. I was finding it very strange, but I wasn't feeling good. My ego let me feel a little bit like, oh, I'm doing nothing, and why am I doing this? I wasn't sleeping well. And then I started to shift it round, because the only person that was making me feel bad was myself. We're our own worst enemy. So what I started to do, I stopped reading the news before I went to bed. I stopped reading a lot of interaction on social media that's tended to be a little bit negative. So I cut that out, and I started to look on the great things, and I wrote a list. And every night, something I do before I go to sleep, I spend about 30 seconds, and I give gratitude to 2 or 3 things that day. I've been doing that for about the last 18 years, and it makes me go to bed with positive thoughts in my head. That helps. Knowing that this is not going to be forever, it shall pass, is another great saying. And also, there's always a silver lining. I've taken this time and taken a good look at myself and how I could better myself as a human being, for others, as a person. I found things that I've liked. I'm not going to go back to work, actually, like the Sonya Dove before. I was a workaholic and did all these things that I never could find a work balance. Boy, I found my work balance now. I just need to integrate the new way of being in with my old way and mesh it all together. Because I do want to have more time off. I've spent a lot of time on the phone. I've spent hours being connected with friends that I haven't spoken to for years, family. So I want to keep that up. When I go back to work, I don't want that to stop. So there's been some great things about it. And then, of course, there's acknowledging people, having compassion for people that have written to me, that have had some very sad stories, being there for them as a human being. I love that part of my job, agony aunt, or whatever we want to call it. I really love that, because I love people. This is why I got into hairdressing. I'm a people lover. Then a little bit of just one step at a time. I never take too many days ahead. I always do one day at a time, because if I start to think too far ahead, I get overwhelmed. If I start to think of the salon today, I'll start to have a panic. I'll go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Right. And that sort of future tripping, I mean, worrying about what we don't have any control over is useless. And a practice of gratitude always kind of crowds out fear. You can't be thinking of something fearful and being grateful at the same time. You describe yourself as a workaholic, but what I've watched in the last few years is really how you have tapped into things that bring you so much joy, and then you have taken those things into your work. And you mentioned Burning Man, which I'm sorry, I just read that it's canceled for this year.
Yes, it is. Yes.
But can you talk a little bit about your experience there of sort of discovering Burning Man and festivals like it, and how that has inspired you in your work and in your life?
Yeah, so what it was I always just sort of worked, and I never really understood what hobbies I had other than hair. And I remember I love music. I always have loved music, and I find such joy for my soul when I hear tracks of music, you know, Marvin Gaye, like old tracks or new tracks, whatever. And I feel such joy, and they really get me out of a funk. So music's something I've always liked. So the nature side of me, I love nature. Oh my gosh. And for me, there is nothing finer than sitting quietly on my own in nature, in a forest, Lake Powell, or by the ocean, and just being quiet and listening to the sounds of nature. So I've always loved that, but I've never made the time for it. So I was at a festival in Burning Man, and I was just walking around as someone walked by me and started chatting, and they said, they asked me, "Who are you?" And I said, "My name's Sonya Dove." They said, "No, who are you? Who are you to the world?" And I thought, that's a very deep question. I didn't even know the person. And they said, "What makes you happy?" And I answered, "If everybody else is happy, I'm happy." They turned around to me and they said, "Wrong answer," and walked off. Just like that. I never saw the person again, but those words, "wrong answer," stuck in my head for so many of the next few days at Burning Man. And I was able to analyze that remark. And really, it's not right that other people make me happy. I should make myself happy. So I started on a venture of reading self-help books and going to more things that I enjoyed, festivals in the nature. And I started to give back to myself like I never have had done before. And that's what gave me that shift in life. Just to be good to myself, to be grateful, like pat myself on the back and do these things. Because I had this story in my head. I was in my 50s when this happened. And I thought, what 50-year-old goes dancing in these festivals in the middle of nowhere, in the nature, when there's only young people? And I started to realize, no, I'm not going to be stopped. I'm going to do what I love. And that's where I got more inspiration in the last, let's say, 10 years of my career than I ever have had before then. And it's truly because I've given back to me instead of me giving out to everyone else. And it's not a selfish thing.
No, not at all. And as you describe it, there are stories we tell ourselves that are self-limiting, but because you have fed yourself, it allows you to feed others. I mean, it allows you to give more, because if we are just squeezed dry, we don't have anything to give. We don't have anything to share.
Yes. And I truly love my passions, and then my passions have started to filter into my hair work, my teachings, my education, even my motivational talks. I do a lot of motivational talks, and I share that I just love nature, I love music, and I can fist pump anyone under the table, even though I'm 58.
Good for you. I love that you make these choices, and actually we call this series, Choose Beauty, because we're talking about choosing beauty as a career, but also choosing beauty in your life, choosing to see beauty, to foster beauty, to encourage beauty. And while, as I introduced you at the top, people are so familiar with you, our audience and our community, but I'm going to ask you to describe why you chose beauty as a career at the outset. I mean, tell us a little bit, cast your mind back to why did you go into beauty?
Well, actually, I hope I don't disappoint anyone, but I didn't want to be a hairdresser. I wanted to be a nutritionist. And I took nutrition exams in England when I was 16, 17 at trade school, and I failed every time. And I just couldn't pass an exam, which was called biology. And I was so upset, and my parents said to me, "Oh, well, you should go to secretarial school and learn how to type, because every girl needs to know how to type, because you can get a secretarial job anywhere." This was a long time ago, Anne, a long time ago. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to be a secretary. And I met someone, and it was Christopher Dove's mother, and she asked me why I wanted to be a nutritionist. And I said, oh, it's not a nutritionist that's the thing I want to be. I just want to be in a job that's with people. I want to make people feel better, feel good, and I want to work with lots of people, not one, hundreds. And she said, why don't you think about taking hairdressing? I enrolled into college, and that was it. So it wasn't the hair that was the driver, it was people. I love people, Anne. And you made a remark that I have such a like for being around people. I love people. This confinement now, me, the four walls, and my boyfriend, this is why I reached out. I'm going to be honest, that I reached out to you, Anne, about wanting to do something, because I have to feel connected. To see your lovely face is just lovely. You know, just to hear you is such a blessing. I feel really good and whole. I don't feel good being on my own at all. That's hence I like working in, when I work in the salon, I work in a commission salon with a lot of hairdressers. I miss those hairdressers and my clients. So beauty is the driver, but it's people is the reason. Humanity, people.
Oh, that's so beautifully expressed, and I can promise you, Sonya, you would never disappoint with whatever you share. Your truth is beautiful, and we love hearing from you. And I can't wait until we can see each other again in person. I'm going to thank you so much for taking time to talk to us and share a little bit of your story. And until we meet again.
Thank you. Thank you.